All right, let's talk about building real authority online. And I'm not just talking about chasing likes and shares. We're going to look at how to build a true, unshakable digital fortress. The kind of presence where you don't just join the conversation in your field, you basically own it.
But let's kick things off with a problem that I bet feels super familiar. You're posting constantly, you're always on, but for some reason, the number of people who actually see your stuff is going down. What is the deal with that? It's a mystery we're going to unpack right now.
Okay, so check this out. It's a real puzzle. On the one hand, impressions, total views, are down a whopping 28% in just a week. Ouch! But then you look over here, and the follower count is actually up 5%. So fewer people are seeing the content, but the ones who do are hitting that follow button. Kind of weird, right?
And that right there is what we're calling the LinkedIn puzzle. These numbers totally contradict each other, and that's our first big clue. It tells you that just looking at the day-to-day stats can be super misleading. There's something way more interesting happening under the surface, and the real story, well, that's in the long-term data.
Now let's zoom out. Over 90 days, you see impressions jumped by over 50%, and the number of actual people reached more than doubled. But, and you gotta brace yourself for this one, look at the whole year. Impressions are up by a staggering 1,324%. Just let that sink in. That isn't just growth, that's an explosion. It proves that whatever the core strategy is, it's incredibly powerful, even with these weird short-term dips.
So, if the long game is that strong, what's causing that recent drop? Well, this brings us to something the source calls the activity trap. And it's the perfect example of how sometimes doing more actually gets you less.
Get this, the brand was posting 15 times a week. That is more than twice a day, every single day. And that extreme pace is exactly where the problem is. You'd think you're maximizing your chances to be seen, but you're actually just tripping over your own feet.
And this leads to a key idea: reach cannibalization. See, when you drop a new post while your last one is still getting some love from the algorithm, you're basically yelling at the platform, hey, forget that last thing, look at this new shiny object. So the algorithm stops pushing the old post, killing its momentum. You're literally making your own content compete with itself.
And the result of all that frantic work? About 154 impressions per post. Think about that for a second. A huge amount of effort for a tiny little return on each individual post. It's the very definition of working hard, not smart.
Okay, so if posting like a maniac on LinkedIn was actually a mistake, what was behind that incredible long-term growth? Well, it turns out all that LinkedIn activity was just a smokescreen. The real engine, the thing that builds true authority, isn't on social media at all. It's time to reveal the secret weapon, the strategic core.
And this is it, the MSL system. It's an acronym for 4 key parts: mental, which is all about having certainty in your actions; substance, which is about defining what you're protecting; logistics, mastering your tools; and leadership, the final decisive piece. Altogether, they create this unique proprietary framework that's the foundation for everything. This isn't just a hashtag strategy, it's actual intellectual property.
And this little quote just nails the ultimate strategic goal. When you create your own system, you completely change your identity. You're no longer just another expert who knows a lot about a topic. Nope, you become the founder of a whole new way of thinking. You basically create the category that you then get to dominate.
And that proprietary system is the foundation for something so much bigger than a LinkedIn profile. So now we zoom out and see the real source of this power, an absolutely impenetrable digital fortress. And it's not built on the shifting sands of social media, but on the solid bedrock of search engines.
Now I know there's a lot of tiny text on this slide. It's a benchmark report, but you don't need to read it. The key takeaway is that their power extends way beyond just one platform. We're talking about a level of authority where they are the answer, no matter where people are looking. And let me show you what that actually looks like.
So this is the crucial part. When somebody searches for the core brand term MSLF, this one individual owns 95% of the top 10 results. Let me say that again, 95%. That's not just authority, my friends, that's a monopoly on the conversation. There's literally no room for anyone else to even get a word in.
And this dominance is everywhere. It's not just a Google thing. Google actually treats the MSLF system as an established framework. Microsoft's AI Copilot literally quotes it as a primary source. And over on Yahoo, it gets listed right next to academic entries, which gives it this halo effect of scientific credibility.
Every search engine just reinforces the authority in its own way. It's wild.
And this, right here, is the single most important lesson in this whole analysis. The fleeting daily buzz of social media is not the foundation. The real, lasting, untouchable foundation is search engine optimization, SEO. It's the fortress that's still standing long after a viral post is completely forgotten.
So how in the world is this digital empire actually built? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the blueprint. It's time to go beyond just what they did and really understand the how, the actual architecture of this power.
It all stands on 4 massive pillars. First, you have the doctrine. That's the unique MSLF system itself. Second is the work, a published 500-page book that acts as physical proof of expertise. Third, the person, a history of being a C-level executive that screams credibility. And finally, the practice. We're talking decades of real hands-on experience. You put those 4 things together, and you have a digital presence that is truly bulletproof.
And all of this brings us to the final question, the one that I want you to think about. The daily grind of social media is tempting, for sure, but you're building on rented land. So you have to ask yourself, what are you really building? What is the unshakable foundation of your digital fortress?